Hey, honey.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, everybody. I'm Fen, and this is Retro Reviews, a review show where we go through my copious amounts of D&D and other role-playing game books, supplements, paraphernalia, whatever, one at a time. And to keep me from rambling, we have Laura.
Hey everybody. So to keep us on track tonight, I'm going to ask some questions.
All right, go ahead.
So first question, what are we reviewing tonight?
All right, we're reviewing Best of the Dragon. This is actually the Best of Dragon magazine, Volume 1, but originally they called it The Dragon, not just Dragon. And also there's some articles in this from the Strategic Review. So,
Okay. And where did you get this magazine?
this is another Eagle Hill find. A lot of my old first edition and second edition AD&D Dragon magazines, pretty much all of them came from Eagle Hill. Somebody was selling a big box full of magazines, and I just go in and buy them each like $5 a piece.
Nice. So Eagle Hill is a comic book and game store in Presque Isle,
Yeah,
where we
right.
went to college, and I grew up.
Yeah. No, I just hung out there all the time playing Star Wars, Magic the Gathering, and other card games over the years.
It's a cool place.
It is.
Okay, so do you want to give us a quick synopsis of what's inside?
A quick synopsis of what inside. So these are just reprints of other articles that had shown up in the first couple of volumes of Dragon magazine. First one is an essay and a map of the different planes of reality in the D&D world setting, like all the different hells and abyss and different types of heavens and stuff like that. It's one of the
Okay.
first early maps of the multiverse. Another article was random dice rolls for making random mutants for the Gamma World game that was called How Green Is My Mutant? And it was just, you roll some tables, it would tell you what kind of mutations you had, like different skin colors, eye colors, how many fingers you had and toes you had. So
Okay.
that was a cool little filler fluff thing for making up your mutants. Yeah, there's some filler rules to flesh out the Metamorphosis Alpha rules, which is also that same Gamma World sci-fi mutant setting. Hints. There's a whole reprint of this hints article for D&D judges, because back in the day we weren't called dungeon masters, we were called judges. The terminology they took from wargaming when they're doing the whole transition over.
Yeah.
It's how to set up towns, the wilderness, and dungeons. This is like a seed article of what would future become the World Builder's Guide. And that's actually the cool thing about some of the articles in here. They're all original things that later writers would come along and be like, oh no, I want to take this and run with it and flesh it out. So this is like a precursor, very simplified version of how to, build your world.
Yeah, cool.
And there's an essay on how to handle languages in the world, in the game, because it's not like today where we can easily go online and find Tolkien's Elven language or Klingon or any other sort of made-up languages. So back then it had to be a lot of theater of the mind, what does this language kind of sound like, and just some general notes on how to handle that. Like if somebody traveled from one kingdom on one side of the continent to the other, they'd encounter a completely different language, and
Right.
how to learn languages and everything like that. Another article on the development of towns, further set up further sets up stuff, but also this one actually had like what was some of the fees that you could pay for different services such as spies and brothels. 20 gold pieces, 35 for the special.
Right.
Just had to put that in there. There's an essay on dungeon design. Again, those would be stuff that would be further fleshed out in like Dungeon Builder's Guide.
Yep.
There's wilderness encounter tables, because whenever you go outside and you're not in the dungeon, random monsters could just show up.
Of course.
Those, of course, are also things that got expanded upon in future dungeon and monster manuals and DM's builds. Random tables to help make character backstories for the Metamorphosis Alpha. And this next one just shows how crunchy and nerdy old school D&D players used to get. The article is called "How Heavy Is My Giant?" and it's an essay on the square cube law, and actually gives you charts for like figuring out how based on how tall that cat is, you can do the math to figure out how fat Catsby is.
Dave, goodbye, Catsby.
Notes from a semi-successful D&D player. It was just an advice article
Of a semi-successful.
of a semi-successful. Basically, get a continual light wand and a leather tube so you can make a flashlight. If you have a potted plant plus the enlarge spell as a plant control potion, you get a you can make like a rose wall.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I want a rose wall.
5-foot steel rod is greater than a 10-foot wooden pole because it's harder. Steel potion bottles, so that way your DM can't be like, "Oh, that glass potion bottle broke." You're like, "No, it's in a metal flask." Keep small vials of garlic juice for fighting vampires.
Always useful.
Use polymorph spells to play. How to use polymorph spells to play Pokemon. Well, this was actually written before Pokemon, but that's basically how I summed it up. Always spend the cash on poison for daggers, because poison back in the day was one way the game was completely broken. Always research to make new spells. Have backup spell books. And always, whenever you can, cast the permanent spell to actually make whatever spell you put on an item so it lasts forever.
That's useful.
Yeah. Next article in the magazine is an essay on how D&D is more than just a role-playing. Is more than just role-playing Tolkien's Middle-earth. It was how to expand over into like Conan the Barbarian and a bunch of other the inspirations. Kind of like an essay that sets up the Appendix N, the suggested reading for D&D players that Gygax wrote in the original Dungeon Master's Guide for ideas of how to get adventures. You don't have to just be like, "We're taking the One Ring to the volcano. Why aren't you flying on the Eagles?" "We like to walk." Article after that is one of my favorite, best ever articles on alignment, because alignment is something that every D&D group does kind of differently. Like, you've seen those memes that pop up where it's like lawful good, chaotic good,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Well, original Dungeons and Dragons never had the good and evil spectrum. Original edition, like the rules they created right after they made Chainmail, when they made first edition D&D, it was law versus chaos. And law was like civilization, and chaos was like the elves and the anarchy. It was just like crazy magic.
Yeah.
And everyone always kind of like puts the whole thing of like, no, it's the good versus evil comes first. It's like, no, it's lawful and chaos come first in alignments. So I recommend getting this magazine just to be able to read that alignment article. I could make a whole separate video about that. There's 3 essays by Gary Gygax himself on how, and they're the first one's on how the D&D games are only as good as the DM, which I think that, like, precursors to the Matt Mercer effect. Matt Mercer's the DM for the show Critical Role, and he does this very good immersive story play. You know, when somebody finally rolls the last bit of damage to be able to kill the big bad, he looks at it and goes, all right, so how do you want to do this? And you get to have that narrative, cinematic, this is how I want to finish off the big bad or finish off this fight. So, totally agree. You know, the game's only going to be as good as the DM. There's one, actually, him talking about the origin of the game, how it came out of historical wargaming and chainmail, had the influences from Tolkien. And there's also giving his reasons behind how magic works. Like the rules of the magic system, which I think he got from, it was another book. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe somebody can leave that down in the comments section below. If you know where D&D's magic system come from, the name of that book, put it down in the comments below.
Okay.
There's monster reference tables for custom monsters from Dragonmirth, which is a series of comics that were being published in D&D. Yeah, the joke monsters, full of old school gamer types with gamer treasure and weapons such as like Breath of Death. It very much makes fun of like the different types of gamers. There's rules for making Barsoom cities, the Mars stories by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Rules for doing martial arts fights, which ended up getting expanded and updated for the Oriental Adventures books, as well as the Complete Fighter book, which we both reviewed both of those on this channel.
Yeah.
Essay on which is faster, an unarmed barbarian or a wizard casting lightning bolt. This actually breaks down. The guy goes into like full Mythbusters mode.
That's kind of cool.
Then there's another one called What Do You Do When the Dog Eats Your Dice? It suggests a number of alternative ways to roll to come up with random numbers. There's like a way to use 2 6-sided dice as percentiles. They're having like tokens in a jar with different numbers on them. The calculator random function, apparently back in the 70s, the TI SP51-A had a random number function that you could program into it.
Fancy. Cool.
I know. I thought that the TI like programmable calculators didn't really come out until like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, who knew?
They talked about having spinners, flipping open the phone book and pointing to a page at random to be able to...
Wait, what's a phone book?
A big book of numbers. Putting a Lazy Susan, one of the spinning table platters, and throwing put a dartboard on it and throw darts at it. Having a mouse in a maze. Yeah, just there's some of these that are like really crazy, like number jumping beans. But then there's the next article, again, continues on some more of the silly stuff. It's an interview with a rust monster, which is a monster that eats metal.
Well, how did he interview the monster?
True, because they're not normally intelligent. I think they cast an intelligence spell on it, so it's smart enough to be able to talk.
Did they give him rust to like go along with the interview?
Probably gave him some snacks.
Okay.
I think he gave him some snacks.
Must have.
Another thing, because D&D was so rooted in historical fantasy games, and so many people that played historical fantasy games, historical war games had historical war game minis when they're playing D&D. So there's actually the full stats for all the troops and equipment. If your party ever is adventuring and they come across a German SS patrol that got traveled backwards through time, so you can fight Nazis in your D&D game.
Huh.
Yep. And we're like halfway through the magazine at this point.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's 33 separate articles, and we're on 22 right now. There's the old school rules for making the illusionist spellcaster variant, because people who specialize in illusion magic weren't really in the core rulebook, so they had to actually creating how to make an illusionist
People just
character.
wanna do illusions.
Yeah, tombs and crypts. Tables to help the DM create the final resting place of like big bads, ancient heroes, and figure out like what's it like and what type of treasure is inside of it. There's an update to the board game Dungeon, which is also a precursor to D&D, one of its things that inspired it. It's very similar. Well, it's not similar, but it's in the same vein as Talisman. But this one ended up basically being like giving you ways to add halflings, dwarves, clerics, and thieves, as well as a few new monsters and magical items where you could like instead of being like, I've got the tokens from a future dungeon magazine saved in this plastic protector. Nowadays they'd be like, okay, we'll print up these cards, we'll put it in with the magazine. That's like a little freebie gift. This is like, okay, grab some like copies of the cards in the game, scratch out the name, write this name, change these stats, and yeah, you're good. Or just get a piece of index card. And very much telling you how to like fake make your own proxies. Next article is the first version of the Bard class. The Bards actually did not come out in the original rules. It was something that evolved over time. Also, the Ranger class is in here. The stats for the original OG Ranger. Interesting fact. 3 interesting facts. Well, one interesting fact that's got 3 parts. The original Ranger class had a restriction until you reached level 8. And those restrictions were you can only have you can only own what you carry. So a Ranger couldn't own anything other than like their personal gear they've got packed on them. They can't hire anybody. And you can only have 2 Rangers in your D&D party. Like, that's it. It's like, you gotta be like, take almost a vow of whatever I can carry, I can take. I can't hire anybody. There's only 2 allowed in the party. It sounds like a small business owner. It's like, there's me and my partner, we just got this stuff, and no, we're not hiring right now.
That's it.
Yeah. Next article is Wizard Research Rules for how to research and develop your own new magical items or spells. Again, these are the beta, early rules. A lot more future editions. I know 3rd edition forward had the spell researching rules right in the book so the players could access it. I think 2nd edition AD&D also had it in there. There's rules for witchcraft, basically giving you stats for NPC witches, what kind of magic they use, their rituals and stuff like that. There is a solo D&D random tables. This one was another one that was published by Gygax himself. Another precursor to the complete Dungeon Builder's Guide, where basically you're just able to sit there and solo D&D, roll your dice, find out, okay, I'm going down the hallway, I get to this, okay, what happens next? Oh, there's a monster. It was also a way that before I got my copy of the complete Dungeon Builder's Guide, the solo D&D article in here was actually how I randomly created a bunch of my early dungeons.
Yes.
There's a great essay. It's 2 pages long. It's a write-up on lycanthropy and how the disease is transferred and how it progresses and how to actually, what people can do to stop it. It was really good fluff-filled episode. Article. There is stats for the for Buddhist and Shinto deities and monsters. So there's a little Japanese mythos in here. The last 2 articles are monster generation articles. They're random generation articles. First one is just for your random construct, undead, magical beast, aberrations, any of those type of things. Is roll some dice. You're like coming across the dungeon. You're on a certain level. You know how many hit points a monster you need. You just grab dice, roll down through, and it just randomly creates some new monster your party's never seen before. The last article is that same thing, but it's for demons. So you actually get the random tables for demon powers and everything like that. So, yeah. I know, it's for $4 back in the early 80s, you got a lot of value out of this.
Yeah, you did.
And for $5 in the early 2000s, I got a lot of value. There's
Yeah.
so much stuff in here that ended up getting expanded upon and added to, and just very much like this. If you're a classic D&D old school player, having a copy of this in your library just to have that kind of cool stuff, you're like, okay, I'm gonna make a random dungeon. I'm gonna have some Nazis and some sort of like crazy like demon that no one's ever seen before. It's all in here.
That's your book or your
Yeah.
magazine. So, are you planning to keep this whole magazine?
Yeah, this one has, like I said, it's such a useful one. We reviewed way back the Best of Dragon Volume 2. I believe there's a Volume 3. I know there's a Volume 3. There might be a Volume 4. And I'd like to try to track those two down. So if anybody knows where I could probably find a copy of those, like if you got one that you're looking to part with, or loan out for a review, definitely get in touch with us.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess that's all my questions.
It's all mine. I got a bunch in there that I threw in just to break things up. So hopefully we get some of my questions answered down in the comment section below, and we will see you next week. Hopefully for a not incredibly much, but a shorter review next week.
A shorter episode next week. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking along.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye,
Peace.
everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for staying till the end of the episode. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at Board Barista Productions. And if you want to support us, Patreon link at the bottom.